Ready?
Born ready. Let's do it.
To be fair, it probably took you a little bit, when you were born to actually be ready, but I understand the feeling.
I don't know, man. As of late, I'm always on, man. I'm always trying to be like mentally, physically, emotionally fit. So whenever somebody throws a question at me, I can answer it just like that.
I think that's great. Okay. So Johnathan, welcome to the Leadership Geniuses show.
Excited to be here. Let's rock and roll, baby.
All right, let's do it. So Johnathan say it again?
Grzybowski.
Grzybowski.
Yeah, just think of it as like a grizzly bear, bowing, and then on skis, and you're good.
Grzybowski. So Johnathan Grzybowski is a rogue risk taker turned entrepreneur and national thought leader in digital marketing and branding. He is the co-founder of Penji, an unlimited graphic design service for marketing teams, and they provide jobs and internship opportunities to Camden students and residents. So welcome to the show.
Excited to be here. Let's do it.
Me too. So the first question I have for you is, what's your background? Where do you come from? As an entrepreneur, kind of what's your story a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So background, I'd say the entrepreneurship bug, so to speak, started at the age of 14. And, I was mowing lawns and I kind of looked at a lawnmower as this vehicle for a lot of things. Number one, just it was a vehicle for getting myself out there. It was a vehicle for making money, which is good, but it was more so just being able to deliver I was doing lawn mowing from the age of 14 to about like 18. And then there was a point in time where we were doing about 40 lawns a month and making really good money. And I'd say like a large majority of the money that we made went to Pokemon cards and junior bacon cheeseburgers from Wendy's. And if Wendy's isn't a sponsor of the show, they should be. But so just getting junior bacon cheeseburgers and just working our butts off, eating and drinking, Gatorade just to survive in the heat, because it was in the summertime, it could be 80, 90 degrees at any given time, and you're outside just working your butt off. So that taught me a core fundamental foundation of like how to work really hard and go after everything that you want. And then my mom came up to me and said like, hey, you need to go out and get a real job. And I was like, Mom, I do have a job. I don't know what you're talking about. But she was adamant about going out and getting like the corporate job. And so, I of course you have to listen to your mom. She's your mom, right? So I got a job at Apple and just learned so much about culture, company, how to run a company, how to hold people accountable, how to give feedback, how to sell. And so like you got the unpolished, hardworking professional at the age of like 14 to 18. And then from 18 to 23, I now become somewhat of I'm still a little unpolished to some degree, but a little bit more polished individual, talking about, understanding of the company culture and the importance of that. And then one day I just quit my job. I hated my life. I hated what I was doing. I lost a ton of friends. I lost a lot. And so I quit my job and just went on this crazy journey of entrepreneurship. I had an agency that wasn't solving a big enough problem. And now all of a sudden what we have is this new business called Penji. And what we do is we deliver unlimited graphic design to agencies, to marketing teams, to small businesses and startups, because we were once that. And we still are, well, now we still are a startup, but we were once that. And so we created a problem, or we solved a fundamental problem that businesses are having. And I'm excited to talk about it today.
So let's talk a little bit more about Penji and the Blind Entrepreneur podcast that you run. Who does your business serve? I know it's not only local, you're using local talent, but what's your typical ideal customers? And tell us a little bit more about the service, how it works, and also your podcast.
Yeah, sure. So so basically you go on Penji, and on Penji you'll be able to facilitate and see our work to see if we're a legitimate company that you would want to use. And after you go over and you see that we have good quality, you sign up for Penji and you're immediately hit with this beautiful platform that allows you to communicate directly to your designer. So you can talk to a designer, you can get your things done in under 48 hours, which is unprecedented in the industry because a lot of times, a lot of people need things done quick, and we deliver quick. But we want to make sure that we deliver it right. And so what we do is we solve the issue of going back and forth through a ton of email chains. And we solve the issue of finding that dependable designer, because if you're an agency and you're listening right now, or if you're a marketing professional, you know how hard it is to find a reliable design team. And so what we want to do is we want to be that team that's always there for you, that delivers on point products so you can go home and feeling confident that you received products of quality that we uphold. But we service marketing teams, agencies, and startups and small businesses. The podcast is more so like a vehicle for myself personally. It's a way for me to meet people. It's a way for me to interact with human beings. Podcasting has been by far one of the most amazing things that I've personally been able to do for myself and my personal development. I've been able to meet people like yourself. I've been able to get on phone calls with high-level CEOs. But because I'm able to give people a platform to talk about themselves, they're able to share everything they've ever learned about themselves in business. And I take that information and I use it for my own, for the success of Penji. I'm able to talk to people, communicate with people, become friends. I never thought that I would be going to a soccer game with the former CEO of Foursquare. I would have never thought that. Like, I would be able to like write that down on paper, and I'd be like, this is a pipe dream to do. But now it's a reality. It's something that like I plan on doing this summer.
What about your biggest failures? What did you learn from them? What have been your biggest lessons in business?
The biggest failure I've had has been centered around myself. It's centered around everything that I've done wrong. And so I think a lot of the things that are happening in today's world, the politics, the movements that are happening, it's just adding a different perspective of just like what a person needs to be in order to be a real respectable human being. And not that saying that I wasn't any of those things. I am always find myself to be respectful. At least I try to be as respectful as possible. But more so, like as a man, I'm just trying to be a better human being. I'm trying to be a better person. And so I'm actively trying to find ways to be more self-aware, listening to myself, feeling that aspect of being on a stage. And so I made a commitment to myself where no matter where I'm speaking, who I'm speaking to, what I'm doing, I always want to feel as if that there's somebody else in the room that's going to be my harshest critic. And so that idea puts pressure on me to perform at a higher level. And so now I'm able to have conversations because I'm self-aware and I can analyze that and not get in my own way. And so I think for me, a lot of times I found myself being very egotistical, and I haven't been able to accomplish things or obtain relationships because of my ego. And so now what I do is I always try and find a way that before I say anything, I always think about the other person first. And I want to make sure that every time that I walk into the doors of Penji, that I check my ego at the door, and I don't let my ego get affected inside. And then if I want to be able to pick it back up when I leave, I can. But for the most part, I try to be selfless. I try to be self-aware. I just don't want to be able to have my ego hinder a possible, huge step forward that we all need to have in the business, because myself and my co-founder, we're the driving forces. And so we let our egos get in the way. We could derail the company to a completely different spectrum that could take us months in order to recuperate that loss. So it's just constantly being self-aware, constantly thinking about how to move the company forward and not letting your ego get in the way.
How does that translate into, day-to-day operations to keep your ego in check? How does that translate into how you're managing your team and directing the company? You're saying that you could derail the company, but how is that, and what kind of problems are you avoiding by keeping your ego in check?
So I'd say that like when you're able to have a conversation with somebody, and I think one of the most important things is you as an entrepreneur, you have this dream, you have this vision, you have this idea of like what success looks like to you. But have you ever asked somebody else, what do you want? What do they want in order to be successful, right? Like, you are hiring people and you're bringing them on to your team, but do you know what they want? Do you know what their goals are? Do you know what their dreams are? And if you don't, then I implore you to step outside today and get on the phone with your team and find that answer. Because once you're able to understand and hear that answer, you're now able to work on their behalf. And if you're able to work on their behalf, they're more likely to then be able to work harder for your dream. So just as simple as, like, your dream could be, I want more pay. I want to be able to be financially stable, or I want to be able to have health insurance, or maybe I want to own my own business one day. Understanding these goals that other people have, and then finding a way to help them achieve those goals. So if it's like money, then hey, here's a blueprint on how to make more money in the company. And health insurance, here's what you need to do in order to get health insurance. If it's them running their own business, well, have them jump on phone calls with you. Have them get into meetings that you and your co-founder are having, so then they know what it's like in order to have that banter between you and your executive team. So it's just like finding out what other people want first before yourself.
I think to some extent it might be a little bit counterintuitive for a lot of entrepreneurs, because they tend to have a bit of an ego and focus more on what they want than what their employees want, and they'll kind of impose their reality and their vision on their employees and not really ask, what do you want? I'm offering you a job. You do your work. I'm paying you. That's the kind of exchange, right?
Exactly.
I've definitely met some people like that, but I think that if someone has the approach that you have, I think it builds a much stronger connection, and they appreciate you a lot better, a lot more, and will probably stay longer, be more loyal, because you appreciate them, they feel appreciated, and like you care about what they actually want.
Isn't that all we want at the end of the day? Like, we just want to feel appreciated. Like, even if you're a solopreneur, you still actively try to find, a compliment here and there, or you still try to find that aspect of like that feeling of love. Maybe you just did something really good and you're like really excited to tell like your significant other, and they're just like, oh, that's cool. Then it's just those things that, like, we all want it. We're all loving human beings. We just show it in different ways, but we all want to have that validation of like, we're doing the thing, that we're doing the right thing,
Yep. No, I think you put the finger right on it. It's a very fundamental need to be loved and appreciated and validated. Absolutely. What have been your biggest successes in terms of leadership in business?
Yeah. So the biggest success in leadership is, when it comes to leadership, has just been like that idea of just listening to myself. If you're able to listen to who you are, and if you're able to understand your core fundamental values of like who you are and what you're good at. Like, listen, it took me straight up 29 years to figure out my purpose in life. And even though like I think this is my purpose now because it feels like it's my purpose, but it may change. But regardless of the situation, I know what my strengths are and I know what my weaknesses are. And so what I try to do is I try to focus 100% of my energy. Sometimes it doesn't get that way, but I try to focus 100% of my energy on the things that I'm good at, and I stop doing all the other things. So for example, and this kind of correlates to sales too, but for example, if there's so much crap that we could be doing that to make ourselves busy, right? Like, you don't need to get to inbox zero at the end of the day. You choose to get to inbox zero. You don't have to send that email right now. There are 8,000 other things that are more pressing than that one thing that you're talking about. And so you need to be able to understand what are the things that are going to move your business forward. And regardless, whether that's a sale, whether that's a leadership thing, you need to be able to have these conversations with yourself first, and then be able to assess in order to dictate what's the next steps. So I think that has been the biggest success so far, is having the ability to just not do the fun work, not do the busy work, and be able to focus on the things that legitimately drive revenue and legitimately drive, the leadership aspect, and getting other people to work harder. that has been my biggest success.
And I think from experience, that's definitely not easy, to
Not at all. It's so hard.
define exactly what the right things are that produce the most results, and to avoid just the busy work, and really be clear, super clear on what is having a big impact on the business. That's tough.
So hard. It's still listen. It's not perfect right now. It's like still a work in progress. It is. That's the definition of my life has always been like a work in progress. I'm constantly getting better. I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly studying. But I know it's a strength and a weakness that I have, and I just need to be able to work harder in order to fix it.
Absolutely. Top 3 pieces of advice to better lead a team.
Clear instructions. I think clear instructions are really important. I think that's most important. I think in order if you're going to give away a role, if you're going to give away a job, you need to make sure that person understands 100% in full confidence what it is that they're doing, and there's no hesitation. Whether that's like creating a video, whether that's speaking to them in person, whether that is doing the physical act for 6 months to a year before giving it away, that is one of the most important things that you could do in order to make sure that the person that is taking the job understands in full confidence what it is that they're doing and will have no questions or no hesitation before starting. Now, there's always going to be that question here and there because it's something relatively new, but they need to be able to walk home with a blueprint of everything they need to do in order to be successful. I think the next thing is just to be consistent. Consistency is everything. Having conversations on a weekly basis when it comes to leadership. So what we do is every time that a person walks into Penji, we have a clock in, clock out, but we also have a task management where everybody comes in and they know exactly what it is that they're doing on a daily basis. Sometimes we set it, sometimes they set it themselves. But at the end of the day, they know exactly what it is that they're doing. And they make sure that they complete as much as they possibly can within that day, or their tasks for the day are going to be deemed as 0. So we have like a point system that's associated with it. Now, I'm not going to say that's going to work for everybody, but I think that aspect of being consistent, of waking up, coming at the same time, clocking in, talking about your goals, and then clocking out, I think is incredibly important. But in that same aspect, you have to hold the team accountable. And accountability can look like so many ways, but I'd recommend doing one thing in your next meeting. Ask a question and just don't answer it yourself, or don't try to sugarcoat it. Just say like something along the lines of, what could you have done better this week? Some hard-hitting questions, or why didn't you achieve your goal? What was preventing you from achieving your goal? And see how the person reacts. Because I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, they get in this idea of like helping the person and guiding the person because they're afraid of seeing them fail. But you have to think about it like, how many times did you fail? And how many times did you become a better person because of it? And then the last thing is just, as mentioned before, you got to get out of your own way. If you have to be the janitor, be the janitor. Just because you think you're the CEO, or you think you're the co-founder, doesn't mean you should be in that moment. Sometimes you need an employee to kind of put you in check. Sometimes you need a team member to say like, listen, you're acting like an asshole right now, and you need to get your stuff together. I'm not saying that it happens a lot, but there are days where you're acting a fool, and you need those moments and your teammates to pick you back up, because they need you just as much as you need them.
How do you go about making it okay, like for them to feel that they can intervene and say something, have a comment to put you back in check or improve the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it depends on the company culture. Everybody's different. So for us in particular, we have that laissez-faire attitude where we tell everybody very point blank that we're not bigger than you, and none of us are bigger than the company. The company is always bigger than us. So as long as you have the company in the best state of mind, regardless of what you say, if whatever you say is best for the company, then who are we to object to that? Regardless if we think we're right, regardless if we think we're wrong. We know that the feedback that is given is always going to make either us better and always going to make the company better. And so regardless of the feedback, I think we all take it into consideration. Sometimes the feedback is right and sometimes it's not, but we're still listening and we're not objecting. I think a lot of times we get defensive when we get feedback because we know they might be right. And so we always have to find a way to like protect ourselves. Why didn't you, hey, I'll give you an example. Like, hey, you didn't reach out to 25 people yesterday. Well, if that person objects to it and they get a little hostile, that's like a really like a sensitive subject. So that they more than likely they may have had a mental block that deterred them from doing that. And so they're going to be protective and maybe make excuses and say like, well, do you know all the things that I'm doing on the day? Like those conversations, those little small banters, they say a lot more than you think. And I think we're just all aware of it. And so even though you can say something without actually saying it.
So I think that sort of emotional intelligence is crucial to not make them feel or to trigger them to become hostile.
Yeah.
Like really not approach them in a very aggressive manner, but just like asking them questions, trying to understand and being gentle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, what's your call to action? What would you like from people watching this? I definitely appreciate all the wisdom and the experience that you've shared and all the advice. What would you like from people watching this?
I would like you guys that if you liked anything that I said, and if you feel as if that you need unlimited graphic design for your business, or you're having trouble hiring a designer, or you're not finding the right team to work with, or maybe you're just like having a hard time organizing all of the content that you're producing for yourself or for your customers, I encourage you to look up penji.co and head over to the website. It's penji.co. We offer unlimited graphic design all at a flat monthly rate of $349 starting. And it's a tool that I am deeply passionate about because it's a tool that we all made for ourselves. And I know in full confidence after the amount of 200 plus customers paying us in order to use it, that I know it could be a solution for you as well. So if you decide, and that is a solution, just use the coupon code podcast25 and at checkout, and you'll receive 25% off your first month of Penji.
That's very generous. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And no, it's been great. Listen, thank you so much again for all your input and advice and sharing your wisdom a little bit.
Thank you for the opportunity. It means a lot. And I think what you're doing, in all seriousness, I think this is so important. So platforms and like yours is critical to the success of other entrepreneurs. So kudos and congratulations to you for creating this platform.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.
Cheers.